We had Chapter 12, Resource Conservation.
Hi, my name is Michaela Brender, and one of the topics I had to cover was green design. And this is the building concept that architects are conscious of the environment around them and using more sustainable resources that are going to reduce the risk of pollution and damage to the environment around them, and keeping in mind any kind of materials that they can use that are more eco-friendly. There is standards set by this that are established by the U.S. Green Building Council, and buildings that meet these requirements are deemed LEED certified, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. A food service industry that meets the LEED certification has 6 goals to follow. One would be to reduce or eliminate the harmful impact that they have around them on this and surrounding environments, to develop a sustainable blueprint to safeguard their water supplies and also ensure that they have a efficient system in use for how they use their water, and to select energy efficient equipment, which can be done by looking for equipment rated by the Environmental Protection Agency, which I will talk more about on the next slide, and recycle materials during construction. And this just means being aware of what goes in the dumpster, what can be reused and recycled during that construction process, instead of just throwing everything out and letting it sit out in the land. And then also to sustain an eco-friendly environment, and just to remind that that continues after the building process, and that they must use that in-house, not just in their architecture. The benefits of green design include decreased cost and the needed labor, which overall, with the sufficient and more sustainable equipment used in the architecture design, there will be a decrease in long-term cost and a decrease also in the daily operations labor needed. And then also to reduce harmful impact on the environment, they increase the work productivity, and a more healthy and sustainable community is evolved. And then also that utility costs are cut from 25% to 60%, which is done so with using those Environmental Protection Agency Energy Star rated equipment and appliances. My next topic I'll be talking about is energy conservation. This is the involvement of a practical and eco-friendly energy management program, which begins with the analysis of the utilities that are used. Proper energy conservation in the food service facility requires an effort from all employees, which can be done so with in-service training and incentives for improving their sustainable efforts. And the choice of equipment and technology are the main source of energy use and cost reduction. In the next few slides, I will cover the different areas of the food service industry that can be improved to be more sustainable and efficient. First is the ventilation system, which is the biggest governable source of energy consumption in the food service production. Here are some tips to improve the ventilation systems of your food service industry. First is setting the units on a control system. This type of control system will set units on a timer that will turn them on and off, and only used when needed so that they're not wasting energy. Second is to place heat liberating equipment in separate locations from the ventilation system, and this will improve the use greatly, because anything like a grill or a fryer will give off way too much heat, and they will not need to be used in that area. Swapping your gas water heater for a heat pump water heater will be 4 to 6 times more efficient. And lastly, installing radiant heat barriers will insulate the roofs and the ceilings to keep out heat in the summer and keep hot air in during the winter seasons. For power sourcing, opting for a compact cogeneration system will use gas power still, but it will also give off a byproduct of hot water that can be used in the kitchen. So you are benefiting from using that in another area of the food service. Also, using wind power or fuel cell will also benefit in alternation for regular energy sources. Heating water can be improved by using a gas booster heater, which will heat smaller portions of water at a time instead of gallons. That can be wasteful. And then lighting to install skylights to take advantage of natural lighting and computerized lighting systems for dimming lights when needed and shutting off lights in certain locations of the building when not in use will improve energy consumption greatly. The last topic I'd like to cover for energy conservation is the proper use and management of equipment. And that starts with only running equipment at full capacity instead of, say, using a dishwasher when there's a small load of silverware. You only run it when it is fully loaded, because this can reduce water use and energy conservation will be benefited. There's many technology advancements to work for heat controlled systems and speeding up that startup time instead of things like a boiler that needs to take time to heat up. And next is turning off equipment when it's not in use, instead of starting things all in the morning and shutting things off at night, turning only what's needed on in the morning and later things on during the day. That will be beneficial to the energy conservation. And time operated gas cooking is possible when it's restricted to a 20% when not in use, and there is certain technology that can benefit in heating the gas up quicker. And then perpetuating a routine of maintenance and cleaning for equipment is key in energy reduction program, because things like a weak oven and refrigerator door spring can decrease efficiency by 35%, and carbonized grease residue that sits on cooking appliances can decrease efficiency by 40%. And lastly, taking advantage of utility companies' energy management programs that they offer will help in energy conservation as well. They offer things such as energy audits, adjustment services for free, and workshops on being more efficient with equipment use.
My name's Mallory Green, and I did the section on water conservation. So some of the ways that we can reduce water is turning faucets completely off, running dishwashers at full capacity, using low flow toilets, recycling gray water, and gray water is wash water and other waste that goes down the sink drains. It can be used for exterior landscaping, as well for restaurants who want to do landscaping. Also, serve water to customers upon request versus some restaurants where you see them give you water automatically and then ask if you want a separate drink. It is better, and it would save a lot more water if you go to the customer first and then ask if they actually want water to drink. So one of the ways that we can reduce trash is through solid waste management. So some of the factors that affect the amount of waste that restaurants produce is either from the type of food service system, the style of service, the type of serviceware, whether it's recyclable, reusable, or if you just like throw it away, forms of food purchased, the menu, and the use and effectiveness of forecasting. So waste management is a priority that is mandated by the food service management today. So the urgent need is to reduce the amount of municipal solid waste, which is the solid waste produced at residences and commercial industrial establishments, which include durable goods, non-durable goods, containers and packaging, food scraps, yard trimmings, and miscellaneous inorganic waste. And then others can be appliances, automobile tires, newspapers, clothing, boxes, disposable tableware, and food waste. So when we actually throw away stuff, it actually costs money to pick up the trash and bring it to landfills. It continues to rise even today, the cost of it. So for example, in Los Angeles, the LA Unified School District Food Service, they produce around 60,000 tons of trash. And 70% of this is from a meal program, and then 29% is from paper, and then 1% is from other. So the cost of this disposing trash is $100 a ton, which is around $6 million a year, which is a lot of money. Legislation has been passed to reduce the amount of waste, which they have made a mandatory recycling regulations, which will help reduce the amount of solid waste, which will also reduce the amount of money spent towards this. So integrated solid waste management system is the complementary use of a variety of waste management practices to safely and effectively handle the integrated solid waste stream with the least adverse impact on human health and the environment. So some of the goals for this solid waste management system is 1, to reduce air, ground, and water pollution, 2, reduce the volume of waste, which goes back to the solid waste management that we were talking about in previous slides, and 3, extract the energy and materials safely. So some of the hierarchies of the integrated solid waste management system includes the source reduction, which includes reuse of materials, recycling of materials, which includes composting, and waste combustion with energy recovery, and lastly, the use of landfills. So source reduction is actually the first step in integrated solid waste management system, which we talked about in the last slide. So the definition for source reduction is the design and manufacture of products and packaging with minimum toxic content and minimum volume of material and or a longer life. This includes elimination of single-use containers and double packaging, metal containers, packaging that is not recyclable, sanitizing glass and plastic containers, and donating leftover food to programs for the homeless. This is a great idea for like grocery stores or restaurants. And so the closing of landfills have actually led to the need to reduce volume of waste. So tools that can include to reduce the amount of waste includes cardboard crushers, garbage disposals, pulper extractor systems, which shred and sanitize garbage, and then trash crushers, which include can compactors and glass smashers, and then polystyrene melters as well.
Hi, my name is Erica Blackburn, and I will be covering recycling, composting, animal feed, fat-to-fuel, incineration, and landfills. So recycling is defined as a series of activities by which discarded materials are collected, sorted, processed, and converted into raw materials, and then those materials are used to produce new products. So why is it important? Recycling reduces waste handling costs, it reduces dependence on scarce natural resources, it reduces the manufacturing energy costs to make new products, it reduces the amount of materials that are sent to landfills, and it reduces any potential pollutions to nature. While recycling should be important for every industry overall, recycling steel and steel cans should be especially important to the food service industry because we use steel in almost every part of this industry. It is mostly seen in our use of number 10 steel cans. So it's important to recycle steel because the steel industry uses old steel to produce new steel. Recycling food service canned steel reduces the material sent to landfills, it reduces energy to produce more steel, and it conserves our domestic resources that we have here. The steps to recycling steel cans are as follows. First, you need to rinse the cans. This is for the sanitation reasons. To cut down on the amount of water used in this process, you can use the dirty or used water from washing pots or pans. The second step is to flatten the cans. This makes for more efficient storage when shipping back and forth. And the third step is to recycle using local options. Food service operations also recycle glass, styrofoam, and plastic. Paper and other dry fibrous materials have also been recycled to be used for cheaper housing materials. Composting is the biological decomposition of organic materials by microorganisms under controlled aerobic conditions to a relatively stable humus-like material called compost, which is used as a fertilizer. So composting is important because it helps conserve resources, it reduces pollution, it reduces landfill costs, and it produces a healthy soil. So first, it helps reduce pollution by not producing the methane gas that is produced when compostable materials are broken down in a landfill. It also helps reduce pollution by cutting down the gas released by transportation. Composting reduces landfill cost by reducing the cost of waste collection and disposal. Compost is also seen as a pollution-free soil enhancer because it produces all of the nutrients needed for plants, but it doesn't create anything harmful to run off into streams and different water sources. Composting can also be used to make money. A New York hospital made $1 million over a 4-year period after implementing new waste removal and recycling techniques. This program consisted of 2 composting initiatives. The first one was to involve vermin composting pre-consumer residuals. So this means all the vegetable trimmings, the coffee grounds, the fruit rinds, and all of the other clean organics that were used in the hospital. These scraps were then used in groundskeeping or they were given away to staff. So this resulted in 15,600 pounds of clean organics being taken away from the waste stream. The second initiative involved composting post-consumer residuals. So that was like yellow cans to gather milk cartons, dairy, and meat products, some cereal boxes, shellfish, tray mats, napkins, and all of the products like that. So these composts were cured on site, and it diverted 41,600 pounds of organic in a 1-year period away from the waste stream. Animal feed. So with this type of recycling, food byproducts and food waste would be fed to cattle and sheep. So the advantages of this type of feeding are reduced waste going to landfills because they're going to the animals. The nutrient density of the animal diets can be changed. Ration costs can be reduced, and then farmers' profits can increase. So some challenges of this type of recycling would be to meet the animals' nutrient requirements with just the food scraps that we'd be getting them. The other problem would be transporting the correct amount of food scraps and processed materials to the animals and reducing the amount of spoilage that will occur during the transportation time. The other issue would be to create the proper amount of moisture needed for this type of feeding to be viable. U.S. military engineers are testing a plan to recycle used restaurant oil into biodiesel. So we need this desperately because the 4 branches of the military use over 400 million gallons of diesel per year. This would be a great way to recycle oil because 1 gallon of cooking oil roughly translates to 1 gallon of oil that can be used by the military. The final alternatives in the waste management system are incineration and landfilling. So incineration reduces the volume of solid waste that we have and produces energy when you burn them. And landfilling, which is the least desirable option for waste management, as we said before. As you can see, there are many ways to recycle in the food service industry. And just to recap, I covered recycling, composting, animal feed, fat to fuel, incineration, and landfilling.
Hi, I'm Lucy Armour, and I covered facility waste assessments. The key concept is waste assessment, audits, and analysis can be used to determine the amount and type of waste generated by a food service operation. Each organization must find a waste program that benefits their individual needs, and each organization can handle it in different ways. It just depends on like the type and amount and whatever fits their budget. They just have to do it based on their individual needs since every organization is different. What fits their needs? Waste assessment is a systematic way to identify waste reduction opportunities in a specific operation. Companies must consider the type and amount of waste that need to be disposed of in order to find which system works best for them. So every company is different, and they make different types and amounts of waste. So it's just important to plan and organize so they can budget properly for which kind of waste they're going to use for their specific organization that fits their individual needs. There are three main components of waste assessment. The first one establishes a better understanding of current purchasing, waste generation, and waste disposal practices. Second is it identifies potential waste reduction options for evaluation. Third, it establishes a baseline from which to measure the success of the waste reduction program. The simple waste reductions such as recycling or just kind of small changes they want to make in the organization does not necessarily need to have a waste assessment. It's just important for to figure out like the main type they're going to use, and if they want to like make any big changes, it's just helpful because it just it establishes the main grounds for what kind of waste they're going to how they're going to assess their waste. The main benefits of waste assessment include that it provides an organized and structural plan. It outlines the costs, identifies specific actions that need to take place, and it documents the savings. So this way it keeps things planned and organized and just everything under control. It's just important that everything is planned and organized in organizations because they need a budget for it and everything needs to be taken into account. Waste stream analysis is a type of waste assessment and is collecting all waste from the opening to the closing of the operation. And they sort by type of waste and they weigh each category of waste products. And this is most accurate and precise, but it's also costly. So you divide it up into types of waste such as paper, plastic, aluminum, and then what a weighing category is, it's which types is used more or less. So they see what needs to be accounted for more and what is not used as much, and that way they can get an idea of which plan works for them. Waste audit is another type of waste assessment, and in this program you would take random samples of how much of waste is being used and what type of waste is being used. This is cost effective, efficient. It's not as accurate as waste stream analysis, but because it takes random samples, it's not specifically looking at it's not as accurate because it's not about individuals. But yeah, this is not as accurate, but it's pretty cost effective and efficient, so it's a very popular use. The last type of waste assessment is visual methods. This determines volume and type of waste. It's not as accurate because you're just literally looking at it and determining what you think is used the most and what's used less and amount. So it's cost effective, but it's not the most accurate. So waste stream analysis would be used over this or waste audit. But if you just kind of want to get like a fast visual of, and you don't need it to be that exact, you just want to get an idea, then this would be the method to use.